Can the RTX 5080 handle the latest AAA games at 1080p native resolution? Yes, that is the question that I have today. And you might be thinking, Vadim, are you mad? This is a high-end NVIDIA GPU that costs above $1,000. Surely it can do that. However, after having witnessed its performance at native 1440p, and there we got something like 40 to 50 plus FPS. Yeah, I'm not so sure about this, so let's find out. To test this, I paired the MSI Supreme SoC version of the RTX 5080 with the Ryzen 7 9800 X3D as part of my Big Quiet PC build powered by MSI. And if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's start with a well-known game, Cyberpunk 2077. We are at 1080p resolution, and let's select the maximum graphics quality preset. This is Ray Tracing Overdrive, which is also known as full ray tracing in other games that are newer than Cyberpunk 2077, because this game has been around for quite a while at this point. And let's select native resolution, which means NVIDIA DLAA is our anti-aliasing solution. Everything is turned on, and the frame generation is off, of course, because we want to check just the normal native 1080p performance. Field of view is set to 100. I'll disable film grain, motion blur, all of those nasties. Everything else is as per the maximum graphics quality preset. Look at this. I told you I had a good reason to be skeptical. Take a look at this. Barely 60 plus FPS. Oh no, 57, 55. Oh my god. Yeah, it appears that the RTX 5080 cannot hold a 60 FPS experience in this game, although I see the GPU is fluctuating, so I don't know, maybe it's because of NVIDIA's reflex. Let's turn that off and see what happens. I'll reload the game. Let's do it one more time. Similar kind of FPS, 60, 57, 56. Yeah, while the GPU utilization stays at 99%, which is pretty much full load, we're still seeing 50 something FPS on the screen from time to time. This is just mind-blowing. Imagine RTX 5080 can't handle 1080p native resolution. Wow, this is something. Definitely something went wrong with the GPU design in 2025, because, come on, this is not even the newest game. And I know path tracing is extremely costly to run. However, this is already the 4th generation ray tracing GPU, so it should be able to handle this. Don't even start defending NVIDIA on this one, because coming from the RTX 40 series to the RTX 50 series, there isn't much uplift in terms of ray tracing performance. Yeah, so this is just undefendable, impossible to defend. Maybe if you do some mental gymnastics, then you might be able to find a reason to justify this, but damn, I'm not happy with this. This is not good enough. Oh, and by the way, the GPU is consuming above 300 watts of power to do this. Okay. This right here is peak gaming. 1080p on a $1,000 plus GPU in 2025. In a game that isn't even new. It's been around for quite a few years now. Mind-blowing. Mind absolutely blown. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Is this good performance, good experience? Or do you want more? Do you expect more from NVIDIA? And from other companies as well, by the way, because, yeah, it should be a team effort to push the performance as well as graphics quality to the next level, and ray tracing is indeed the next level. You can ignore it for now, you can say like, oh, I don't use ray tracing, but more and more games have it, and more games actually rely on it now. In some cases, it's not even optional anymore, like in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, that is just baked into the game by default. You can't turn it off, and it will only become more and more accepted to actually use ray tracing, or at least some level of ray tracing in games. So I expect to see a consistent, significant uplift in performance, in ray tracing performance, generation over generation, which we haven't seen coming from RTX 40 series to RTX 50 series, unfortunately. Let's also check normal ray tracing performance. That means path tracing will be disabled. Ray tracing ultra preset, NVIDIA DLAA. And as you can see, path tracing is indeed disabled, but we still have all the nice features that ray tracing provides. Reflections, shadows, lighting, all that good stuff. This performance right here is more in line what I expect path tracing to actually be like in 2025 on modern GPUs that cost a lot of money. Consistent high frame rates, even though this is just 1080p, still, at least we can see that it is possible to achieve high frame rates with high levels of ray tracing. Surprisingly, we are actually CPU bound right now, because take a look at the GPU utilization. We are at 70-ish% GPU utilization, which means that we are CPU limited in this particular case. Maybe it was just a fluke, a poorly optimized game? You might say, okay, maybe. So let's take a look at another game that is a more recent release, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It also features NVIDIA's full ray tracing, and just take a look at this. It is very well optimized. It can do well above 100 FPS, closer to 200 actually. So you can't say that this is a poorly optimized game by any means. Take a look at the settings that we're using. 1080p, native resolution, absolute maximum graphics quality is selected, and at the moment we're not using ray tracing at all, although this game has ray tracing enabled by default. So even though the ray tracing preset says off, it still has a low-level ray tracing in the game by default. It cannot be turned off. And we are not using any resolution upscaling either. NVIDIA's DLAA enabled, which means native resolution. So let's go ahead and enable full ray tracing now and see what kind of performance we can get. And we are seeing the same kind of performance. You see, there is a pattern there. Path tracing is just limiting the FPS that we are able to achieve in pretty much any game. 54, 55 FPS. Yeah, that is not great. So the game went from 170 FPS to below 60 FPS. How is that good? I don't think it is. Also, it is worth mentioning that we are currently using above 14 gigabytes of video memory. Yeah, video memory is kind of getting important, especially in the future. If we want to play these games with ray tracing enabled, I hope that NVIDIA will actually deliver a massive ray tracing performance uplift with the next generation of GPUs, and they better have enough video memory to run these games. Yeah, more than 16 gigabytes is definitely a must, because I am hoping that we won't be playing our games on the RTX 6080 at 1080p, okay? That is not something that I'm looking forward to. In more simple levels in the game, we can actually get a pretty good FPS, even with full ray tracing enabled, 90 plus in some scenes inside of this building. That jungle section is also a part of the game, and I want to enjoy every game entirely, from start to finish, with good frame rates, good performance. And currently, that's just not happening. Next up is Assassin's Creed Shadows. I want to have a look at this game's performance because it is not running really well on any GPU. Higher resolutions and lower resolutions, doesn't matter. And it does ray tracing a little bit differently. It doesn't have NVIDIA's full ray tracing feature set, but the game still looks amazing, and that is something that I want to check out. We are at 1080p, native resolution, no frame generation, no resolution upscaling, and the graphics settings are absolutely maxed out. Ultra high graphics preset selected, diffuse plus specular everywhere, ray traced global illumination selected, ray tracing maxed out, everything is absolutely maxed out. Next gen experience right here. Barely 60 FPS at 1080p native. Okay? This is something. Not something good, but something. Let's see if we can actually find a spot where FPS drops below 60. Yes, this is it. 55 FPS is the lowest number I've seen. Amazing, amazing performance, amazing experience. Yeah, even at 1080p resolution, you basically have to use frame generation if you want a nice fluid image on the screen. I'm just baffled, stunned. No words. Well, no words needed actually, because we all can see it on the screen. Barely 60 FPS. Something is definitely broken in PC gaming in 2025, and this must be addressed by the GPU makers in partnership with the game developers, because they should be working hand in hand to deliver good experiences for us customers. It's their responsibility after all, if they want our money. Lastly, I want to check out Alan Wake 2. This is the most GPU demanding game in my library, and I want to see how well this performs on the RTX 5080 at 1080p native resolution. We're not using frame generation or resolution upscaling. The graphics settings are absolutely maxed out, and ray tracing is maxed out as well, which means that we are using basically full ray tracing once more, path tracing enabled, everything enabled and maxed out. Indoors in the town area, we are getting 60 plus FPS pretty consistently. Not bad, right? Not for the $1,000 plus GPU though, at 1080p, come on. Barely 60 plus FPS. I don't even think that this is good enough, but it's not the worst case scenario. There is another thing that I want to check out. This right here is the worst case scenario. The forest area, as in any other game where there is a lot of foliage, there's a lot of shadows, hence worse performance, because there's a lot more calculations that need to be done for ray tracing to work, especially when it comes to path tracing. There's just more elements, more rays, more calculations needed. And while the game looks absolutely incredible with full ray tracing enabled, the performance is not that great, is it? 50 plus FPS in this spot, and I'm pretty sure that we can encounter some areas in the game where it will actually drop below 50. Like this one here, 40 plus FPS. 39, yay! We got a dip below 40 FPS. At 1080p resolution on the RTX 5080. That is an achievement. I wonder, what will happen if we actually lower the ray tracing quality by a little bit? Let's go for the high ray tracing preset instead of ultra. We're still getting just 40 plus FPS in the most graphically demanding scene in the game. So that's not enough. Let's try ray tracing medium. Maybe that will help? No, not really. We're still below 50 FPS. Ray tracing is just that demanding in this game. So you either play with ray tracing and frame generation enabled to get a playable, nice experience in all of the levels in the game, or just flick it on and off. Once you enter the forest, turn it off. And then once you go back to the town or indoors, you can turn it back on. But is that something that you're willing to accept when you spend that much money on a high-end GPU? Yeah. Tell me in the comments, what do you think about this? I think that this is absolutely unacceptable. And just to show you that this game can actually run quite well, I'll turn off ray tracing completely. Check this out. 90-ish FPS in the same scene. That is pretty much double the performance that we had with ray tracing enabled. The math is simple. If you want double the performance, then just don't use ray tracing. And you'll get double the FPS. In conclusion, unfortunately, the situation is even worse than I expected initially. Yeah, we're living in 2025, and a high-end GPU, such as the RTX 5080, cannot handle 1080p native resolution with maxed out graphics settings. I'm just lost for words. This is the world we live in. Wow. Of course, we can still get a fairly nice experience with the RTX 5080 paired with a 1440p or a 4K monitor, thanks to DLSS, resolution upscaling, but still, even then, sometimes we have to use frame generation to actually smooth some of the edges in terms of performance, which isn't ideal, is it? And I think that this video is perfectly showcasing where that problem stems from. We can't get a good experience at 1080p native resolution. How can you expect DLSS to be effective if we can't upscale 1080p up to 4K and have a good experience? If we can't get a good experience at native 1080p, then it's just not possible at any resolution, is it? Unfortunately, full ray tracing is very far from going mainstream, because even the RTX 5080 can't handle it. In 2025, it will get even tougher. In future games, that will be even more GPU demanding. I don't know. Can it be fixed in software or game development? I hope it will, because the RTX 5080 will be on the market for another 2 years or so, until the next generation of GPUs arrives, whenever that will happen. But I don't expect it to happen at least for another 1.5 years, because NVIDIA usually drops a generation every 2 years or so. Yeah, it is what it is for the next 2 years. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about all this? If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. It helps out a lot, I appreciate it. And if you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon and the links in the description below. Also, subscribe for more videos like this, if you haven't already. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.